Welcome to the Art Box. I'm Steve, your host for today's episode. If you're one of our many loyal listeners tuning in from across all 50 states and 59 countries, you know that we most focus on the arts. We occasionally wander, intentionally, into other realms of creativity, heart, and human experience. After all, we believe that nearly everything in life holds an element of art. Today, we're joined once again by our friend and frequent guest, Shannon McConnell, here in the recording studio at Mesquite Works STEAM Center. Shannon is no stranger to our show. As a retired engineer from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, she usually brings us stories of science, engineering, and space exploration. Now retired with her husband in St. George, Utah, Shannon continues to enrich our STEAM programs with her insight and passion. But today's episode is different. Shannon opens up about a deeply personal journey, the loss of her family home to the wildfires in Eaton, California. It's a story of survival, of families who escaped with their lives, yet left behind cherished memories and decades of life built within those walls. Through the heartache, there's also healing, told symbolically through the roses, now blooming once again in their new Utah home. We invite you to listen closely, not just to a story of loss, but to one of resilience, reflection, and the quiet artistry of starting over.
Welcome to the Art Box, your podcast dedicated to exploring the vibrant art scene in Nevada and beyond. Join us as we embark on a journey through galleries, theaters, studios, public lands, and streetscapes, meeting the artists, curators, archaeologists, nature lovers, and cultural influencers who shape our creative community and our world. Whether you're looking for your next cultural adventure, seeking inspiration for your own artistic pursuits, or simply curious about the world of art, tune into the Art Box. Together, let's open up a world of creativity and imagination. Let's dive in.
Dreams, what if the night is about you and me? So lift your head up to the sky.
Shannon McConnell's here with us today at the Mesquite Works STEAM Center, our beautiful studio with the door falling off.
Hey.
I got to put that door back on. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not a lot of things on this particular podcast. But Shannon, you guys lost your house.
In the Eaton fire, but yeah.
It was the Eaton fire?
Yeah, the Altadena fire.
Okay.
You can call it the Altadena fire.
Altadena fire.
So yeah, that'll work perfectly.
Okay.
Okay. And I probably won't go in too much into we were or weren't living there. I'll just explain we were getting ready to sell the house.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe just that.
Yeah.
I mean, because other people lost all their stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know you lost your house.
Yeah.
I know that you've got some roses, I think, that survived it, and you've got them replanted. I think that's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. They are beautiful. 5 of them are beautiful. 2 of them are still dead.
Are they?
Yeah. But it's unbelievable. When we left for Santa Fe, 3 of them were still dead. And we came back and we're like, oh, there's a weed. Oh, no, that's not a weed.
Oh, yeah, really? They're planted in your house in St. George?
It's really funny because the day we planted them, they looked so awful, of course. And the few that had leaves, the leaves were all droopy and the flowers were dead. And we're planting them. Our neighbors come out and they're like looking at us. And it's like, and my girlfriend says, well, if it were closer to Halloween, this would make more sense. Because they just look terrible.
Oh, the poor things.
They looked
So
horrible.
how long after the fire did you transplant them?
Oh, God, when did we go get those? April? Yeah, it was far enough that they had started to sprout in California.
Okay.
We thought what had happened was they were up against a fence, and the fence had partially burned down. When we got there right after the fire, they all looked dead. I mean, none of them had a leaf on them. And the fence had come down. The first 2 closest to the house, one of which is still one of the dead ones, had no fence. And then the 3rd one back, fence had come down and was laying on it and just crushed it.
Yeah.
That one's not only back, it's blooming. Yes, fire smoke. It's a fantastic thing that we've been living with. Anyways, so we left them, and then and then it rained a lot. Well, okay, for LA standards. I mean, we were coming into winter. And we were more focused on we had some barrel cactus and things down by the street that we were more focused on getting out of there before somebody helped them along, if you get my drift. Or if we didn't know how good the Army Corps was going to be at disturbing your whatever is living out there, which, by the way, they were amazing at not killing stuff that you wanted to keep. Anyways, they were very, very good. I was surprised. And then we came back in April. I want to say it was the middle of April. We drove down there for some reason. The house hadn't been cleared yet, so you couldn't see where the roses were from the street. And we you had to walk up our neighbor's yard through their driveway and cut down because you couldn't get across our property without, because of the debris field. And as I come around and I clear, I'm like, oh my God, they're blooming, some of them. And that's like, they're almost all back. There was one that was for sure dead when I went to see if it was thing. It came right out of the ground. So that one was gone. And but even the two that we brought back that aren't blooming had little sprouts on them. So I said, I think we should take these. And, so we talked to Star Nursery and said, would they grow here? And the guy's looking at me like I'm on cocaine or something, right? And he says, of course they'll grow here. Look around you. And sure enough, as you start going around and looking at, because I'm like, we have the little scrubby desert. As you start going to places like the Dairy Queen and Hurricane has a huge rose bush right outside it. Places like this. I'm like, I guess they'll grow here. And he gave us some tips for, keeping them.
Now, you hadn't transplanted them yet.
No,
still
they were still in the ground in L.A. So I said, well, let's get them before Army Corps comes and clears the property. So we went down and we took buckets, empty buckets, and tarping and a shovel. It looked like we were going to commit a murder, let's be fair, which is what it looked like when we did anything else. You had to bring everything with you. Dug them up and dragged them home. They came home with us. I think they even spent the night in the car in Barstow because I think we spent the night there. We wrapped them all up because it was still cold out. It was in the 30s out, still up there. Brought them home. And literally on the way home from that drive was when Army Corps called and said, they're supposed to give you a 72-hour notice.
Oh, did they give you notice?
Yeah. They called and said, we'd like to do, in order to do your property, we need to access your property from your neighbors, which we knew. Because our wall in the back was still up, and that was the only other easy clearance into the property, the debris field. They have their 72-hour clearance, so we'd like to do them at the same time, which means we'd like to start tonight. And we're like, have at it. Go for it. So I told Scott, I said, we got them out of there in the nick of time. But sure enough, we got back, and there are plants in that yard that they did not touch, and the house was literally up against them. And the plants are still there. So they did a really nice job of cleaning everything out.
Well, so let me just ask one more thing about the roses. Mm-hmm. So roses are at your house and they're doing good now, except for one of them.
One of them. We only have one. The one that was closest to the house.
But you haven't given up on it yet.
No, we haven't. So Dr. Q's transplant shock treatment has been a godsend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we've used that a lot. We fed them well. We amended the soil. Scott is the king of the drip lines. The sprinkler drip lines, so he put all the drip lines in. They're all, 4 of them are blooming. None of them look normal, the blooms. They're all smaller. One of them, we don't remember having 2 white roses, but we seem to have 2 that are blooming white. So we think maybe one of them was one of the yellow ones or pink ones. It's just the chemistry of the rose might have changed. Yeah. But we can't tell. They're all small, so it's hard to tell what they're going to look like because they were all big floribundas. So those are the ones that put off those huge blooms.
Yeah. Well, that's...
And what's fun is we had to pull a picture the other day. I'm like, I have a picture somewhere of the yard because they were on the side of the house. So when you shot photos of the yard, if the kids were playing or even for resale and stuff, you'd shoot out. So the roses wouldn't be in the shot. But I happened to shoot one back across the yard and some patio furniture we'd installed. And the roses were blooming in the back. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm back and said, well, now we know which colors we had. Because by the time we dug them up, put them in Home Depot buckets, put soil in them, watered them, dragged them home, and transplanted them.
You didn't know what was what.
We didn't know what was what. So, yeah. So they're all doing fine.
Well, that's, I don't know. Is that like hope or something to me?
I guess, yeah. And they'll always have those dark, scarred trunks. Yeah. But it is funny because I know my mom used to be she was a worked at a nursery for a long time when I was a kid. And I remember the people coming, oh, yeah, no, your roses, you have to love them and hug them and hold them and swaddle them and feed them, cow's milk and to get them to bloom. And I'm like, apparently not.
Yeah, I guess
apparently
not.
You can just abuse them. My friend who's a landscape architect, he's like, oh, no, I have gone through houses to clear out houses and found what look like dead roses that have been buried under, ivy and stuff. Clean them out, give them some water and
they
food,
come
and they're
back.
fine. Yeah.
Well, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
The story they could tell.
I can't even imagine.
Do you want to talk about when you found out about it?
Sure.
Because then
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you told me, you've learned a lot about how to remediate and what the Corps Engineers does.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we start what happened first.
Yeah, let's start with what happened, and then we'll go with that and talk about. We can start
Because you weren't living in the house.
No. Nobody was living in the house.
Nobody was living in the house.
Yeah, we had renters that had moved out at the end of November, and we were getting ready to put the house on the market. Fortunately, they moved out the end of November. I had been down there the beginning of December and done a full photo and video walkthrough of the house December 4th or 5th with our real estate agent. So I had photos of almost every corner of that house.
Was it furnished?
No. I mean, there were 2 bar stools that we had left
yeah.
that only fit in that house and a couple of things like that, some patio furniture and stuff. And I had done that mostly to, this needs to be fixed and we need to fix the hinge on this door. So I had a lot of up closes and stuff.
Yeah, little did you know.
Yeah. And then Scott had gone down 2 weeks later and stayed he was the last one to spend the night in the house. He had stayed in the house for a couple of nights on our air mattress that we bought at Costco when we moved up here. Because we needed something back and forth. And
we've slept on air mattresses before.
Yes. Spent a couple nights down there, and he did a full detailed video walkthrough of the house. So between the two of us, we had every single corner of that house videoed and photoed right before the fire with no furniture in it. So which really helped when we had to start filling out insurance claims, and you'd start going through, what was the layout of the cabinetry in this pantry?
Yeah, well, here
Which you would think you can do. Because you walk in it. How many times a day when you live there?
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 times a day? Yeah, we know all between our 2 kids and us, we all failed Pantry 101 cabinetry layout. We all got parts of it right, and between all of us, we had it together.
But it didn't matter.
Yeah. But little things like that, But yeah, we had the garage was the only place we hadn't actually done any photos or videos, so we had a lot of cabinetry in the garage, garage cabinets. Neither one of us were like, well, there's cabinets down this side. Okay, there's a lower with a counter, and then there was 3 or 2, or I'm not sure, But you could kind of count based on the length of the garage. But that was the only space we didn't have any photos of. Because why would you? Nothing was broken in there, so, Nothing needed repair or replacement. So we'd done that when we first rented the house.
So when did you find out about the fire?
The morning after it happened. We had...
Was it the first day?
So it had happened. So the fire broke out the night of January 7th, and we were down there, and that's its own fun story to tell. And we had gone to dinner in Pasadena with our son, and we were at dinner when my girlfriend texted me and said, hey, there's a fire in Eaton Canyon. And then she texted me back literally 5 minutes later and said, ooh, it's going to be a bad fire. And it was really, really windy. The winds were like nothing we'd ever seen there. And we've suffered some pretty big windstorms. So we went running back up to the house. And funny thing is, I still had my white Honda from the Rose Parade because we hadn't turned them in yet. So some of us get white cars to drive around with the big roses on them. And when we'd left on January 3rd, I think, after the parade, because there was no one living in the house, I rolled it in the garage in the house, closed the garage door, and we left. And we were going to come back the 8th of January to meet our real estate agent. And then he called us on the 5th or so and said, look, I can't meet on the 8th. And the only time I can meet on the 8th is like at 10 in the morning. Well, it's a 6-hour drive. And I looked at Scott and said, no, it's not going to happen. Because you'd have to leave here at 2 in the morning to get there, type thing. We decided, well, we'll just drive down the night before, and we'll spend the night on the air mattress in our den. The den was the best room in the house to sleep in. It was very quiet, carpeted, very pleasant. So we got there, and it was really, really windy. We're driving down, and somewhere on the drive down to L.A. from St. George, I got a post on Facebook. Scott must have been driving, hopefully, and I got a notification on Facebook that there was a fire in the Palisades. Well, I'd gone to high school in the Palisades. My grandparents lived in the Palisades, so it sparked my attention. And I pulled it up and I said, I bet it's up in the Highlands, which is a notorious place for fires in the Palisades. And I pull it up and I'm like, oh, this is a bad fire. Oh, this is really bad. And yes, it is in the Highlands, but it's going to take out the upper part of the Highlands. You could already tell. And it's really, really windy. This was one of these things. It was really, really windy. We know it was supposed to be windy. And we were starting to pick up the wind driving down. So we get down to L.A., and I was trying to push it because a lot of times Southern California Edison will just turn your power off if it's windy. And I said, my Honda's in the garage. And the last thing I want to do is have to arm wrestle our garage door by hand, because that thing was heavy, and get the car out and then have to arm wrestle it back down. So I would like to get down there before Edison decides to turn our power off prematurely. So we get down there. I won't go running in. Oh, thank God the garage door is still opening. You know, it means we still have power. So Scott says, okay, I'm going to go blow the air mattress up so we have something to sleep on. And I'm going to get the Honda out of the garage and close the garage door again. So we did that, and then we putzed around. Scott had just set up a new wireless network at the house, so I took my brand new Christmas gift Mac laptop and logged into it for the first time and checked my email, and he checked his email, and then we said, well, let's go to dinner, because we were meeting our son for dinner. It was Taco Tuesday at the local taco place. And that's when my girlfriend texted us. And when she texted me the second time and said, this is going to be a bad fire, and we looked at where it was, the three of us looked at each other and said, we need to go back to the house, because we had taken my Honda to dinner, which meant Scott's car that we'd driven down from was at our house, and my laptop, and our air mattress we wouldn't have cared about.
And your roses.
And our roses, and a couple other things that, you know. So we went running back up to the house, and all our neighbors were gone except our immediate next-door neighbors. And you could see the fire. I have pictures of the fire on the... They're not... It looks like it's at the end of our block, but it's a couple miles away. But the wind is just blowing right down the mountain, right on top of us, which is unusual. Usually the wind would blow side to side.
Yeah.
But it was blowing right at us. And I said, if this wind changes at all enough to let that fire spread west, and then it starts blowing down again, we're going to be in trouble. So we deflated the air mattress. We threw everything between the two cars. We threw everything in the two cars. It looked like, looked like you'd evacuated. Closed the door, talked to our neighbors.
But you were under no evacuation order.
We were not under any evacuation order, we have a county park that's across the street from us, Farnsworth Park. And that has always been, because it's on a major road, it's the only park on a really major road up there. And it's right up the street ironically, from the sheriff's station and the fire station, that they always use that for kind of their staging grounds. It also has a big, huge open Little League field, so they could land helicopters, which we dealt with in '93. So they were starting to stage up there. So we knew we were going to get an evacuation notice. And like I said, everybody on our street was gone, except one of our neighbors who we couldn't find. And he's kind of a hermit, and his car was there. So we figured he was there, but he wasn't answering his door, and we didn't know where he was. So we thought, well, maybe he's out walking around, because he would do that and see what's going on. And then our neighbor's right next door. And they were getting ready to evacuate, and I remember Terry, my neighbor, saying, oh my gosh, I got this box for you that came the other day from somewhere, and they delivered it to us because there was nobody home. And I'm thinking, why am I getting a box at this address? Turned out it was one of those, please return these things that you had borrowed from your work 20 years ago type things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like an answering machine. Sure. Oh. If I didn't return it then, I'm not going to find it now. One of those boxes. So I grabbed the box and off we went. And we didn't know where we were going, but all the power was out. Our power was ironically still on, but most of the street lights were out. And there was debris. And when I say debris on the streets, I mean 6 foot in diameter tree branches, debris in the middle of roads. And no lighting, and people tried to evacuate. So it was just chaos. And so we took off. We stopped at the park where they were starting to stage for an evacuation, and we told the sheriffs, hey, we can't find our neighbor. This is his name. This is his address. His car's there, and here's the situation if someone can do a wellness check. Great, no problem. They took all the information. Then we took off, and our plan was to go to the next town over, which is La Cañada, and go to the McDonald's because we figured the power would still be on over there. So we get over there. Power was still on over there. We went to McDonald's. We pulled in, and we kind of just checked what was going on, and sure enough, the fire is all over the place behind the house now. At this point, we're sitting there, and a friend of ours texted who lives kind of down a fair chunk of the way south of where we lived, but still, like a 30-minute drive from our house. She said, hey, do you guys need a place to stay tonight? And we said, yeah, maybe, because I can't really find a hotel in the area because everything has been booked up at the last second. And in parallel, my niece, who lives way down in San Clemente, which is like an hour and a half drive minimum, also had offered. And Scott says, I'd rather stay closer so that we can come check on the house in the morning. So we took our friend up in Temple City up on her offer, and we went and spent the night at her house. And we stayed up until I finally said, I can't watch the news anymore. I just can't. Because between the Palisades fire in Altadena, it was just constant. It looked like a war zone was going on. And I loved how they were, side note, at one point, we were enjoying because I've always loved disaster news footage because it's really entertaining at times. So they were interviewing these young teenage boys who were all trying to get into the Palisades to help their friend evacuate. And we're like, yeah, that's a street gang. Sure, they're trying to help their friend. Can't you tell what those are? So we were enjoying that, but we went to bed about, 12, 1 in the morning. Get up the next morning. We said, well, let's see if we can get up to the house. So you couldn't get up there. There was just, the streets were all backed up. They had a lot of security up there keeping you from it. They didn't want anybody up there, obviously. And as we started driving up, you could see active plume west of us, west of where our house was, and way down closer into the main part of town. And we were in both cars at this point, so we were on the phone with each other. But we were right behind, one was behind the other. And my husband at one point said, this is not a wildland fire anymore. This is an urban fire. I said, I know. And we're driving up. There's a golf course near our house, and we were driving up near the golf course. And the streets are super narrow around there. So there was a fire truck coming up. So we'd pulled over both cars to let the fire truck go by. And the fire truck got waved down by somebody right in front of us, so he stopped. So we were just kind of sitting there waiting for him to answer the poor person's questions. And while we're sitting there with our windows open, all of a sudden you heard an explosion, which was probably a propane tank in somebody's backyard, like a barbecue tank, not very far from us. And I looked at Scott and I said, this is why they don't want us here.
Yeah.
Is stuff like this. We need to go. And we were still a couple miles from our house.
Were you really?
Yeah. We need to go. I'm not comfortable right now in the environment. So we turned around and we kind of headed down to the Tournament of Roses headquarters because I have a parking lot. Nobody was there. It was all closed. And I said, we need to dump one of these two cars somewhere. My niece had called and said, do you want to spend the night tonight? And I said, you know what? I think tonight would be a good idea because the air quality was so bad. It was horrible all over Pasadena. It was like sunset at noon. I mean, it was so dark. And it was raining pieces of ash that were
I bet,
the size of dollar bill, even down there. So I said, I would rather not be in this environment. So
what were you guys thinking then? Were you guys thinking that you lost your house?
Oh, yeah, we were pretty sure. But we weren't 100% sure.
Right.
We'd called our insurance agent, who's a really good friend of ours. We've known him forever. And he said, well, if you were west of that main artery, Lake Avenue, I know your house is gone. But you're east, but I don't know. The east is where we don't know what's going, because nobody has been able to get in there. We know what happened to the west of Lake Avenue was the fire came down and it just took out the entire neighborhood in one fell swoop in the middle of the night. And so they knew everything was gone there, but they didn't know what had happened on the east side there before the fire really came down. Before we had gotten into this fall. I have a really good friend who works at the University of Utah, and she and her daughter were at Disneyland for the week. And we had planned to have lunch on that Wednesday, the 8th, with her. So I said, look, there's nothing we can do. We can't get to the house. I don't want to be breathing this stuff. So let's drop one of the cars at the tournament house, at the Rose Parade headquarters, and let's go down to lunch in Anaheim with my friend, and then we'll go down to our niece's in San Clemente for the night. But we don't want to take 2 cars all the way. This is a lot of driving. So I called my friend who is the director of member services for the Rose Parade, and I said, look, I need to leave a car at the house, tournament house. We call it the tournament house headquarters. He says, oh, yeah, just don't worry about it. Just bring it in. I come in there. You knew who'd been evacuated. All their Hondas were there.
Oh, were they really?
I have a picture of all of them sitting there, yeah. So we took Scott's, I think we took Scott's car and I left mine there. Yeah, because I left the keys there. And I thought that technically it's their car, so I'm going to leave the keys there.
I'm surprised they didn't want you to turn it in to get it away.
But they did. But
But
you had to go to Pasadena. Honda was doing the turn-ins, and this was a Wednesday, so they're open. Well, normally they'd be open. We were scheduled to turn them in the next weekend.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
Yeah.
you still had the car for a little bit longer.
Yeah. So everybody has a car until depends on where the first falls and where the last events are over. So you usually have it until about the 10th or 15th of January. So we were getting close to turning them in. So we did that, and we're driving down to Anaheim to see my girlfriend. And we're like, I just don't know. TG didn't know if the house was gone. We can't get in there. We can't get any word from Red Cross. The heat map that was posted on the news this morning certainly shows that it was gone, but you just don't. That's just tree canopy heat map. So you don't know what happened. We've been through this before where fires have come through that area. I said, wait, I have an idea. Let's call Terry, our neighbor. So we call Terry, and she picks up the phone, and she's just crying. And I said, well, we have our answer. Sadly, we have our answer. As it turns out, our neighbor, the one we couldn't find, stayed until, Edison never shut the power off, obviously, because that's what caused the fire. And he stayed until, I think he said 3 or 4 in the morning. And he was across the street from us, and he watched our side of the street go down. And it came from our backyards from the mountainside down through our houses. And the minute it started to take, our house was the last one in that run to go, partly, I think, because it was newer construction than the other ones around us. At that point, he says, I need to not be here any longer. He got in his car and left. So he said it was about 3 in the morning when that street went down. He lost his house, too. So we finally got up there the next day on that Thursday, and we snuck in through when you live somewhere long enough, you know how to get around the police barricades. We took Scott's car because he has a Subaru. Because I said, if we have to come in on the horse trail, we have to come in on the horse trail. The Subaru can make the horse. My Honda can't, my parade car. So he took his car. We did manage to sneak in on a side road that they hadn't blocked.
Yeah, but the parade car is a rental.
It is a rental. Exactly. Well, his car has its own story behind it, too. Anyways, and we got in, and it was really, I videoed all the way up because we came a very odd way to get to our house because you couldn't come the main road because they had it locked down for sheriff. And they weren't letting it. Didn't matter if you had an ID that proved you belonged there. They weren't letting you.
They weren't letting you. No.
So we came in the back, and at one point we missed a turn onto one of the streets because there's no houses there. And you're so used to turning at the yellow house or the house with the big tree. Well, the big tree is dead, so, or the house with the red Audi on the corner that never moves.
Oh, they had to all be heartbreaking, though.
Oh, yeah.
To see that you're driving through your neighborhood there.
Oh, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the hardest part, was going through and just house after house after house. And in the end, on our block, one house made it through.
Did it really?
Yeah, one house. And it sat really low it had very low profile, had a rock roof. Not that everyone didn't have rock or tile or whatever. But it also, the couple that owned it, she was very paranoid of earthquakes. And he was a general contractor, so he had put earthquake film on all of their windows.
Oh.
And all their windows were cracked and broken, but none of them had broken through. And he thinks that's what saved their house in Eaton.
Yeah, really?
Because we think what happened in our house, because our house was stucco and we had Spanish tile roofs, the fireproof ones. Yeah. I tell you, those things did their job. We had a debris field of beautiful, pristine tile.
Really?
Some of them were broken from the fall, but all over the property. None of them burned.
Well, they're clay. They get fired anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And so we think what happened was it took out one of the windows finally. It got in there somehow. Because, most windows today are vinyl frame, and they're not made for 3,000-degree forest fire to go through them. So we think that's what happened. His house stood. The house below them, theirs also stood, which was a brand new remodel. So I'm guessing they did some fire hardening. But on our swing, you have to get almost a mile down the road before you see a house that stood besides those two. And then you get across the street, and it's just as bad. I mean, it's just block after block.
Describe, if you will, how you guys felt when you pulled up to your house, or what was your house?
Well, you pulled up. We had a block wall between us and our neighbor, Terry's, that was still standing, and that's how we identified because we were coming from that side of the street.
Oh, was that bad that you could?
You could see that.
Yeah.
So the block wall was still.
So that was the only way to identify it.
Yeah, and we also had a red concrete driveway. We were the only one on the street. So in the minute you get to the red driveway. In fact, that's how we identified the property for everybody. We're the one on the block with the red driveway. And we had planters, and we had 2 Palo Verde trees. And, it's easy to spot when you're looking for a house there. But when you're looking at burnt lot, you're like, is that Ray's house? No, wait, that was Ray's house. No, wait, I think this was Ray's. You can't tell because you're not used to looking at how well do you know what the property at the front of the property without the house looks like type thing. You just pulled up and you knew it was gone. So you just pulled up and you were like, okay, I'm just going to, take a deep breath, and the forensic scientist comes out in you immediately. You're like, oh, look, this is what solar panels look like when they've, taken a 10-foot fall in 3,000-degree heat. And
Shannon, do you think it was easier on you guys in that you weren't living in the house anymore?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I think so. At
least you knew you were going somewhere to go to bed.
We had a place to go to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a place to go to. We didn't lose all our stuff. I just think of all my friends who lost. I have friends who lost cars. I have friends who lost pets that they couldn't find. Harrowing story of friends of ours that lived on the other side of the main artery street. They said they had, because we've been through this before, so they had packed up their cars and packed them on the driveway facing out so they could just pull out and go, and gone to bed. And at about 2 a.m, their cat was crying and clawing at their bedroom door to get in and woke them up. They didn't know what was wrong with it. They knew the fire was going on because you could smell it, hear it, and you saw it outside, but they said they opened the door to let the cat in, and the back of their house was fully aflame.
Was it?
Yes.
They had let them stay?
Yes, because they had never done... So on our side of lake, they have all these automatic evacuation warnings now.
Right, yeah.
Down in California. I think they have them up here in Utah too, but I don't know. But they weren't activated on that side of the artery. They were only activated on our side of the artery. So they had never gotten any kind of notification to get out. Yeah. And they literally put their shoes on, grabbed the cat, found their car keys, and left, and barely got out of there alive.
Wow.
And fortunately, their cat came with them, because their cat was it was right there, terrified.
Well, it was a good thing for the cat.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And sure enough, if you go on that, I'm starting to calm down now, but for a couple months after that, you'd go to Pasadena Humane Society's website, and they would have fire victim after. We found this cat, we found this dog, wandering in the debris, very clearly feet are burned, clearly hasn't eaten. So, and obviously no coyote or anything has gotten them because they all fled after the fire for a while because there was no food source. So yeah, so they were finding all sorts of animals that people just couldn't find. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, you go through your neighborhood and you say, oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. And the places that you eat at and the places you go to, the market, one of the markets burned down. We have a school down on the corner, the Montessori school our kids went to burned down. The school across the street, I had friends that there was a private K through, I think that's a K through 6, kindergarten through 6th grade. That school burned down. They were like schoolless. And what you don't think about schools is, yeah, the school burned down and you could go rent a facility. Like Palisades High School has rented a facility in Santa Monica. And they keep saying, well, we want to move back to the Palisades. Well, that's great. But who's going to go to school out there? There's no housing out there. Nobody's living there. You know, our neighbors across the street, they have little kids, and they moved. Her sister lives in the Bay Area somewhere of California. I'm not Marin or one of those that starts with an M. I don't know my Bay Area geography that well. And they moved up there because at least their kids could go to school with their cousins and have some kind of sense of normalcy, sort of. But you have families who've moved to Long Beach. There was a couple on our street that was talking about retiring to Vegas. So they said, well, we don't have a house. Let's go rent a house in Vegas for a year and see if we like it.
Well, what's to become of the area?
It's unclear.
Are you guys, you don't have to tell me, but are you guys selling your property?
Yeah. Our property's on the market at the moment. It's unclear. I know there's a lot of people who live at least in Altadena, want it to go back to what it was. But here's the deal. Altadena was first founded in the late 1800s. It was originally a ranching, farming, horse. There's still a lot of horse properties up there. People will ride horses around on the city streets type place. Most of that housing went in. We were one of the newer, not counting our remodel, we were one of the newer areas of Altadena, and those were put in the early 50s. So it's an area that has a lot of smaller houses on big lots. We were on almost a quarter of an acre, and the house was originally 1,900 square feet, when we bought it. So that's a lot of extra land. And the infrastructure, the city, or it's not city, but it's county infrastructure, isn't made for higher density housing. It's also on a hillside. So it's unclear what's going to happen. I know in the Palisades, the Palisades has more money. I mean, the people that live there, just in general, it's a more expensive community. Yeah. So I think what's going to happen there is you're going to see some of this urban densification in that area where people go in and put 2 duplexes in or something. Those were a lot of those areas are smaller.
So somebody's going to make money out of the disaster.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going to look like it did before.
No, it will not look like it did before. It will not.
Yeah, because initially that's what you hear. Oh, we want to come back. And yeah, but that's just probably not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And in all fairness, I mean, a lot of the businesses that burned down, there are a couple that are in really cool-looking brick buildings, but a lot of them were like, think what your buildings, your commercial properties look like that were going up in the late 50s. We really don't need to look like that anymore. It's kind of old, and I always used to drive up and down the main artery and say, I wish they'd tear that building down and put something more modern in. Here's your chance.
Yeah, there's your chance.
But yeah, so it's unclear, and I know the county is trying to push for, like, if you own the lot and you want to rebuild, and you want to rebuild within some amount of the permitted footprint, you can keep your tax base the same, which is a huge issue in California, of course. Well, that's great. But again, if you're in a 1,500 square foot house on a quarter of an acre, no one wants a 1,500 square foot 3 and 2 anymore. But they just don't.
Yeah.
Unless they're retirees. And retirees are not the people who are going to build a hillside home in California in 2025. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. They have to deal with, we had the closest fire hydrant, not that we had any water in it, but the closest fire hydrant to our property was halfway down the block. And it wasn't even up to code, modern code.
Yeah, so all that'll need to change.
And the minute you put that in, you've got to put in new water lines.
Yeah.
And some of the houses were still on septic up in our area.
Were they really?
Yes, because that whole area was originally built on septic. And the city came through, or the county did at some point, and offered to put in sewer when they put sewer in, but not everybody went on it. So they're going to have to deal with that. And then they're going to, and the heavy debris trucks that have been all over that place. I can't vouch for the Palisades because I can't get in there. But in Altadena, a lot of the roads now need resurfacing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Including a couple of the ones they had just done last year. So you look at all of that infrastructure that has to happen before you can put a shovel in the ground and build a house. Our friends who own the house that survived, could they move back in? Well, not right now because it's all smoke damage. But once they cleaned it up, could they move back in? Yeah. Do they want to be the only property up there?
Well, do they have electric?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah, you have electric and water. We could fire
Was the
water.
electric underground?
No, God, no. That's what caused the fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so do they have electric? Are they got to put back up the poles?
They have to put poles back up. You can call the local, which is Southern California Edison, you can call them and get a pole put in with electrical for your lot. I don't know about them because they have a standing house. I'm sure they can there too. But, then you have to get a permit. You know how that is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, yes, you can get water and electrical, no problem. No gas, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I guess not.
No, because gas has all been tapped off. But so I don't know if you have a gas stove, what your story is there. But because a lot of us were on gas.
I guess so you were on underground gas. You didn't have a canister, okay.
No, we were on underground gas. We had a gas fireplace,
Yeah.
gas cooktop, gas water heater, gas furnace, too.
Well, Shannon, that's sad.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, made out better than anyone else, but
We're still
you
on
still had all the memories. And one of the things I know you were putting on Facebook, I think it hit me as kind of sad that you remembered getting things in the yard and, some improvements you did in the yard. And you guys were looking at that on Facebook.
Yeah, we had list of, like any homeowner does, stuff they wanted to do or needed to do, deferred maintenance. And when COVID hit and both our college-age boys moved home, it was like, woohoo, two strapping young college men. Let's do as much as we can. So we re-landscaped the front and backyards, which needed it, and we did we put new ceiling fans in the kids' bedrooms because they were tired of the little kid fans. And we repainted both their bedrooms, and we did a lot of work like that during COVID. I mean, a lot of it was heavy labor. I remember our older son was going to University of Utah, and he's like around this time, around July 5th, 6th, right after the 4th, he's like, oh, look, my classes are going to start up in next month. Got to go by. Was out of there as fast as
It's like, no more slave labor.
Exactly. I'm going to go back. But yeah, we did a lot of stuff like that. And you went and, you go and you think, ugh, all of that for naught. That big block wall in the back of our property, we'd resealed it and re-stuccoed it and repainted it and planted against it.
Yeah, as you talked about that on Facebook,
Yeah.
I felt kind of sad for you guys.
Yeah.
Because, maybe you didn't lose the art and the poems and the
Right.
sixth grade art that the kids had, but you still lost some memories.
You did. Yeah.
But you don't lose memories, but...
No. But But we have photos, and it's... But yeah, it was interesting. It's an interesting experience. We're still trying to finish up our last part of our insurance settlement. Note that it's the beginning of July.
Yes, it is July 1st.
Yes. But we're almost done with that. It's just amazing how slow that process is. Every time the insurance company calls you for something, it's not something, it's like I have to go digging through some file looking for something. Fortunately, I have a box, literally a banker's box of just all the stuff from that house. When we rented it, I had a notebook of like all the big improvements we'd done when we remodeled and then when we did the stuff in 2020. So we had all that. So that was nice. But you would go through things like because we'd rented the house, we'd left the notebooks in the house with the manuals for the fan and the Ring doorbell and stuff. And you'd sit there and say, oh, I could have looked up what model of television that was we left there, but right.
Yeah.
It's in the book. Where's the book? Well, it was in the media closet. You have to go back and trust your memory and guess on some stuff. Let's be fair.
So what are, as far as selling it now, is there anybody knocking down your door trying to undercut?
Yeah, we have a lot of investors trying to buy for rock bottom prices.
Okay.
We had one almost sale, but it was interesting. It was an older couple, and they were interested in the property. And I think what happened was they went into initial contract, and then reality hit of what this was going to mean. And because I'm thinking, I'm not in my 30s. If I were in my 30s, would I rebuild? Yeah, maybe. Even if I were to rebuild to sell, I'm not in my 30s. I don't want to deal with this. It's going to be 5-6 years. So we checked, and there is a federal tax exemption that says you can deduct the sales proceeds of your house on a property, I should say, that was your primary residence if you've lived in it 2 of the last 5 years. Well, that deadline for us was initially August 1st of this year, so in a month.
Yeah.
But because of the fire, and it was declared a federal disaster area, we get a reprieve on that. So now we're not in a humongous hurry, other than we're just sitting on land in California that I didn't want to be sitting on anymore. But yeah, so I mean, we paid off the loan, what was left of that loan. So we own it free and clear.
What do you pay taxes on now?
We are still, the county is reassessing all the properties up there.
I was going to say, they have to reassess.
Yeah, and we just got a letter in the mail a couple weeks ago that says, we're in the process of don't pay your property taxes. I'm like, they were due in February, people. You told us not to pay them then. I still haven't paid them. So we'll get a reassessment at some point that'll be a lot lower than what we were paying. And that's really the only capital outkeep. Although we can get water on the property, and we're going to do that because we do have some trees that we put in during COVID that are still juvenile trees that do need water.
Oh, they're still there.
Yeah, and they're all still there. Yeah, they all survived. One of them was a lime tree that I think my husband got at Costco, and we put in the ground, and it did not look like it. Every single other tree on that side of the property burned to the ground. And the last time I was there in May, it was in full foliage with blooms.
Oh, wow.
So, that kind of thing. And
lime trees are tough.
They're tough, man.
Well, they have to be, because you need limes for margaritas.
That's right.
I think margaritas are tough.
That's right. So, we have no water on the property, and it's now summer, so there's no water because it doesn't rain in California in the summertime. So I think we're going to go ahead and have the water company tap that so we can get water on the property. It's a 200-foot run from front to back of the property. And, of course, all the stuff we need to water is in the back and the water line's in the front. I told Scott, I said, we're going to have to find a 200-foot hose and put the pressure – we have an extra pressure thingy – and put it on there. And then our poor son, who lives in, 20 minutes away, instead of going up with 4 one-gallon jugs for those 2 trees that need water.
Yeah, you can go up and
just hit the hose.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. That's all, that's all she wrote. That's all we're going to do unless somebody comes through, and we'll just leave it on the market.
Well, Shannon, I'm sure sorry that happened to you guys. Because I was thinking of you right away. I was like, oh, no. So, interesting thing, I've met 3 people. I've known one for a while who lost everything in the Paradise fire. Yeah. Just 2 recently. Then, I lost everything in the Paradise fire. And they said everything. Everything.
Well, and that was scary because they couldn't get out either, physically, a lot of them. That's a whole different level of disaster. But yeah, we knew someone who lost. We have someone living up with us in Washington that lost everything in the Paradise Fire. It puts a new perspective on things. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you're still smiling.
You have to. What else are you going to do?
You're still living your life.
Yep. It is what it is. I mean, part of me says this is a horrible situation, and part of me says, well, I didn't have to try to sell a house.
No, you didn't.
So I guess you look at it that way.
Yeah.
I just have to sell a piece of land.
Yeah, I mean,
eventually it's a view lot. I mean, you can see Catalina on a clear day.
Oh, can you?
A lot, yeah. So, and we're 20 miles inland. So, okay, there are very few full days that clear, but you get the idea.
You want to give your real estate's name and number?
Yeah, exactly. So, I know that once the investors get done trying to buy. So what's interesting is when you look at a map of our area, there are a lot of properties for sale west of the main artery road. There's a lot of properties for sale south. There's 2 properties for sale on kind of our quadrant, us and 1 other people about 4 houses down.
What's everybody else doing?
Don't know. Our area was really interesting because it was built in the 50s, early 50s. And when we bought our house, which was in the early 90s, there were a lot of original owners still at least on our street, that had bought the house from the developer when the first one on the market in the 50s. And slowly but surely they've passed away from age, or they've moved, or whatever's happened. But it was still a very, very stable area. And then COVID hit, and a lot of people started moving. We had 2 houses on our street go up right across from us, and young families moved in. So you were starting to see that transition. So I think the people who bought recently are more inclined to rebuild because they don't have the equity in the property.
It just makes you wonder, where do they go? Where are they staying? I know it was Katrina was, a lot of people, I think, went to Houston and,
Yeah.
then they pretty much didn't move back.
I know our one friends, they moved to Vegas to try it out because they were thinking of retiring in Vegas anyways. So they're renting a house for, I think he said, a year, just to see if they like it. The couple with the young kids, they moved to her sister's Bay Area of California so the kids could go to school together. One guy way on the end of our street who's moved back into his property survived, and he's way the heck and around the corner type guy, and he's living there, which is great because he's like the eyes in the neighborhood to see what's going on. And he will call you if something's happening, or, hey, guess what, there's a bear, I see a bear, that's a good sign. I don't know where one family moved to Long Beach, I know that, but I don't know where everyone else went. I have no idea. For the ones whose house survived across the street from us, they're living in Pasadena because that's right. I talked to him the other day. He says, yeah, they finally found a place in Pasadena. They were living in West LA and driving back and forth. They wanted to be closer so that they could keep an eye on what's going on because there has sadly been not their house because they were smart enough to get a moving truck and a rental unit and get everything out of there as fast as they could that they cared about that wasn't destroyed. So, because I have friends whose houses have just been looted top to bottom.
Oh. Okay.
Because they were out of them for so long.
Yeah.
And there was yes, there's sheriff patrol, but they can't be everywhere all the time. It doesn't matter. And that was our big thing with, we had these we had 6, but 2 of them didn't survive the fire. But we had 4 20-inch barrel cactus right on our curbside. And those are very easy to move, except that they weigh a lot. And I told Scott, I said, if we don't get those out of here, somebody's get them out of here for us. Yeah. So we went down, I was going down the end of January I was meeting a girlfriend. We were doing a Run Disney race down in Anaheim. So we went down there with our shovel and our dirt and our plastic.
Did you relocate them?
And we did. They're all in our 3 of them are permanently relocated in our front yard in St. George. The other one is still sitting on the side of the house in dirt, obviously, in the ground. We have a place for it. And we just didn't know where we wanted it right away. And now that we know where it is, it's literally 108 out, so I'm not digging a hole for it.
Yeah,
it can
right.
stay there.
Yeah.
It's very happy where it is.
It'll be happy.
Yes, it's fine. But yeah, we got those out of there pronto because I told him, if those are still there in a month, I'd be shocked. But the roses, no one's going to dig roses up. They're all over the place down there, or any of the other stuff.
Well, of course, because you have the Rose Parade.
That's right. I want to talk a little bit about Palisades Fire. So the Palisades Fire also started that day. It did not start from a utility.
How far away are they?
As the crow flies, probably 15 to 20 miles.
Okay. So they were completely separate fires.
Completely.
One didn't start the other one?
No.
Okay.
Palisades Fire, it turns out, was a fire that had been put out by the local fire department.
Oh, I think I remember hearing something
And
about that.
they had not monitored it after they'd put it out to make sure that there were no hot spots. And so when that wind kicked up, and I don't know what caused the initial fire. That wind kicked up and it got going, it was just the Palisades, where it started in the Palisades is a notoriously bad area for fires. They put that housing development in there in the 70s. My grandfather was retired LA Fire Department. And he said when they put it in, he says that whole area is going to burn to the ground at some point.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because of the way it was put in, the fire suppression, there's only one major access road in and out of there. When you clog it up with people trying to get out, you can't get the fire trucks in there, that kind of thing. And it took out half the Palisades. Now, I've not seen the Palisades, but my grandparents lived there. Their house burned down. My aunt lived next door. Their house burned down. The elementary school I went to burned down. The middle school I went to burned down.
Okay, because you grew up in the Palisades.
Well, more or less, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My high school took heavy damage. They are in summer break now, but they rented an old Sears Roebuck department
Really?
store in
Yeah.
Santa Monica. Yeah. So they're calling it's called Palisades High School. We all call it Pally. So it's called Pally South. It looks fabulous, what they did to it. I don't know what they're doing for sports fields because it's a Sears Roebuck department store across the street from a mall, and the beach is 2 blocks away.
Oh, okay.
There's no other. The closest sports fields are at Santa Monica High School, which is a super impacted high school. There's probably 5,000 students there, I would guess. I mean, it used to be the biggest high school in the area, and it's a different school district.
Oh, okay. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing for any of their sports, but they had spring sports going on.
Okay, I'm sure they're doing something.
Yeah, they're doing something.
There's got to be some youth fields or something that they can.
One of the sporting good companies had donated new equipment to the girls' softball team and uniforms because they'd lost them all right at the beginning of the season. I thought that was great. But yeah, so it's its own sad situation out there. And because of where the Palisades is kind of squeezed between Santa Monica and Malibu. And one side of the Palisades butts up against the ocean and Pacific Coast Highway, and the other side butts up into wildland.
Oh, that's right, because I remember seeing houses burned on the beach.
Yes. So it's harder to get in and out of. They are the LA, that's under LA City. That's actually part of LA City. So LA Police Department is able to lock that down a lot easier because Altadena's just got major artery. It's a major urban, even though you're against the mountains, it's just harder to block that all off. Palisades they're able to block down, so you still can't get in there, I don't think, without some kind of resident permit. No, I tried about a month ago driving by just to see if I could sneak in on one of the back roads, and nope, sure enough. I'm like, ma'am, do you have an ID?
Oh, so they've got it staffed.
Yeah, they have it staffed. You can get in there if you're a resident, if you live there, or if you have a business contractor's license to get in there. So like I have a friend who has a contractor's license to get in there for site clearance, that type of stuff. And he's offered to take me, but we just haven't hooked up to do it. But yeah, so it's its own sad situation. Those are all smaller lots for the most part, except for maybe that one area around Will Rogers State Park, which I think burned down in that area. That's kind of closer to Brentwood. They're all smaller properties. That was mostly an area that was built in the 50s and 60s, and then a lot of those houses had been remodeled over the years. But it had been started as
Probably a lot of it be remodeled more than once.
Yeah.
We're talking generations in there.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. But it wasn't as old a community as Altadena. It was a cute community. It had a little village square, market, and library, that type of thing. It's a nice little community, and it's kind of isolated. They're also the school district. They're part of LA Unified School District there, but they're surrounded by Santa Monica, Malibu, which is a different school district. Ronald Reagan lived there for years, so that's kind of like, I mean, other people lived there. I mean, my high school, Palisades High School, was, this is going to go back. Listeners over the age of 60 will know these people. Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher's home was on where the property high school is now.
Oh.
Yeah. Debbie Reynolds was Carrie Fisher's mom.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, you're getting up there when. Look, my son who loves history, we were in Vancouver in May, and I said, "Oh, guess what? We're staying at the hotel that Howard Hughes stayed at the last year of his life." And he said, "Who?" I'm like, "Wait, you're a history buff. You're from California. You love movies." You said, "Who?" Your grandpa worked for Hughes Aircraft. Remember? That's the Howard Hughes.
That's the actual Howard Hughes.
How do you not know who this is?
And we have the Howard Hughes Corporation in Vegas still.
Mm-hmm. That's where Summerlin came from.
Yeah, well, they paid us to do graffiti remediation. That came from the Howard Hughes Corporation, yeah.
Interesting. That's where the Aviators
Yeah,
you're
right. The
name
Aviators
came from. That whole area. Because wasn't Summerlin his wife's maiden name or something?
No, I think it was his grandmother or
something like that, yeah. It was a family name.
That was her name, yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so the Palisades is its own interesting. The one thing with the Palisades is the downside is it's part of LA City. Altadena is part of LA County, so it's a different situation in terms of slow-moving bureaucracies. Not that either of them is fast, but, you know. But the Palisades has a lot more, looks like development money knocking at the door.
So that may be a little quicker turnaround.
Maybe. we'll see. It'll just look very different than it. I mean, a lot of very wealthy people live kind of on the, I can't say in the Palisades, more than on the fringes. And I don't know if any of them lost their home. You had Mel Gibson and Arnold Schwarzenegger lives out there. Kamala Harris lives out in that area. They all kind of live on the other side of the Palisades. We're going to call that the O.J. Simpson side of the Palisades.
Okay.
Closer to the country club. And I don't think any of that side burned.
I can remember seeing celebrities. I think did Adam Carolla lose his house? I think he did.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen him on TV talking about it.
Famous people have lived in Altadena. I mean, Jackie Robinson lived there. Olivia Butler, the writer, lived there. Sidney Poitier lived there. You know, it's more like a lot of people that Disney studio executives live there. People you wouldn't know their names. NASA employees, because of the facilities right next door, live there. So a lot of people.
JPL where you worked at?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's.
Was that ever threatened?
It was threatened.
With fire?
They will do anything to keep that property from burning. So, anybody who's right around there generically. I mean, I have friends who live. There's an area right above JPL on the Altadena side that's just a another one of those fire hazard zones waiting to burn down. And somehow they saved all those. That was the fire line, that housing district. So they all survived, which is pretty interesting. Because if they had gotten through that, if that fire line had broken, it would have gotten down into the lab. Although I question what would have burned there. Again, all brick and concrete, but who knows, you know.
Well, they go up.
They do. They do.
Brick and concrete, though, but
Oh, yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, we have little pieces of granite from our house from before they, cleaned it. And the granite looks like it's been through a fire. It's very fragile. It's, you've got to be really careful with it. I've got a piece of granite from when we remodeled the house that was all polished and shiny. That was our test piece to walk around, literally to look at stuff when we were shopping. And you put them side by side. You sit there and you go, how does granite not make it through a fire? And yes, the fire is probably 3,000 degrees when it comes to your house, but that kind of a fire. And Scott says, well, you have to think about it. Yes, granite is forged in the middle of the earth, but it's also not cut thin slabs either. Yeah. So it's that tensile strength that causes it. And it just shattered. I mean, we had one set of granite that we never did find a piece of because we had two different colored granites in different parts of the house. We never did find one of them.
Really?
Yeah, all over the place. Found tiles in the bathrooms. Found melted lights, which was really sad because we had these cute little pendant lights. I was like, when we sold the house, I'm like, I almost want to take those little pendant lights because it's hard to find little ones anymore and use them up here, and we'll just put other ones down here. No, we didn't get those. I found a gooey, gelatinous mass that had been one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We found the tub in the middle bathroom was in one piece. All the shower walls were just laying over on their side, which was interesting. Fireplace, I'm sure the fireplace was a gas fireplace, so the interior of it, you could see it, but you couldn't get to it where it was in the house. So, because we were on raised foundation, so there was only a certain parts of the debris field you felt comfortable walking through.
So no basements there?
No basements, no.
Because that would be really dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
For then the people coming in.
Yep.
How about chimneys?
A lot of chimneys. Most of the chimneys were standing. Ours was not because it was a remodel, so it came down. But a lot of the old brick chimneys are still standing. And there's a move afoot because the community in Altadena is so old comparatively, late 1800s. There are a lot of homes with historic tiling on their chimneys and things that made it through. If they made it through the fire, there's a move afoot to rescue those. I mean, they're like handmade tiles from the 1800s type, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, a lot of chimneys standing. Although I don't know now that they've cleared so many properties. I'd have to actually go back our neighbors had a chimney standing, so I'll have to see if it's, in my last set of photos, if it's still standing, because I took photos last time I was there. Last time I was there, which was in May, I came up and the street, that was the first time I'd seen the entire street clear. And you kind of stand at one end of the street, and it looks so weird because you're just looking at, you could see all the way down the street, which you obviously couldn't with houses there. I'm standing there going, this is almost weird. Now that the heavy equipment is mostly gone out of the area, and there's really no reason for people to be up there, it's like wandering around on the street. Yeah, there's no cars. I mean, every once in a while a car will go by. And it's usually somebody else that lived on your street that's in the area that's out checking on their property. Or a little more traffic now, but not much. Because for the longest time, it was like, oh, yeah, you just... Literally, people would pull up, they'd see you at the house, and they'd leave their car in the middle of the street to talk to you for half an hour. It's like, you could pull over in case somebody comes by. But yeah, it's very weird, considering it used to be just wall-to-wall cars up there. Maybe we'll do a follow-up in a year or something and see where we are.
About 10 years.
10 years. Yeah, probably 10 years.
I don't think I'll be doing this in 10 years. I probably won't be here in 10 years.
Sure.
But 10 years would be interesting.
It would be, wouldn't it? Well, then that's the thing. That's a closing note. That's the thing. I mean, my husband was really attached to that property because he remodeled it. He came up with the layout. He came up with all the embellishments in the house. They were his cabinets from his company, So he has an emotional attachment to the house in that sense. He says, and his first reaction was, well, let's take the money. We're going to get a big incentive to rebuild. Let's rebuild. And I said, you're in your 60s. I'm in my late 50s. Do you really want to be dealing with this in 5 or 6 years? And I said, and the other rule is, I am not dealing with any more, I call them back of your RAV4, back of the RAV4 contractors that take your money and run. I want a reputable contractor. I don't care how much it costs if we're going to do this. I want someone who's actually going to do the job. I don't have to go after anybody's bond or any of that stuff. And it's going to take 5 years, probably. Do you really want to be dealing with it? And he kind of thought about it. He's like, no, not really. I said, see? Yes, 10 years ago? Sure. Why not? It's going to be an interesting experience to see what happins down the road with
it's
communities.
We were thinking of you when all that was going down. I was like, oh. And then I think I messaged you or something. And
yeah, you did.
Like, yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that day when we were at Disneyland in Anaheim, having lunch with my girlfriend, I said, nah, my phone died with the number of texts and phone calls that were coming.
Oh, I'll bet.
We both just said, I'm here with my girlfriend and her daughter. Her daughter's a college student, so not young. We're here. It's the four of us. Phones, floor. Let's ignore it for a while. Because you're trying to answer people, and I'm like, finally said, look, these people know what happened. The word is out. They know what happened. They will all give you a pass if it takes you 2 hours to answer.
You know what, though? I can't help but think. So there were big areas that burned.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, they were small.
Yes.
And everything else in California and the United States and the world continued on that day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everything continued on. You look at it and say, in Altadena, something like 14,000 structures burned, including, a middle school, 2 public elementary schools burned to the ground, and several private schools.
And those were people's entire world.
Yes. And in the Palisades, it was fewer homes because it's a smaller area. They lost 2 public elementary schools completely, 1 partial high school. They don't have a middle school in the Palisades. Well, technically, but it's not in that part of the Palisades. And about 6,000 structures burned. But that's a small, when you look at, I remind people that just Southern California, if you draw a 2-mile driving radius, a 2-mile driving without California traffic, driving radius of Disneyland, you have the state population of Florida in that circle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people there. So to lose, 20,000 structures? Is nothing.
Yeah, it's no big thing. Except for the people that are there.
Right. Yeah. But
and the greedy developers who are like, yeah, looking at that.
Woohoo. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah. When you look at it, it's a very small area, and you look at that with earthquakes and anything else, any other kind of disaster like that. It's really a small area.
Well, you know what I ask you about? Well, you got everything out, but I wonder, because this is an art podcast. Is this? Yeah, it's an art podcast.
It is.
I better get something to art. There's people who had art in their house.
Oh, God, yes.
And when I say art, but I'm talking about that their kids, their second grade kids' stuff that went on the refrigerator that are lost forever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You lost
family pictures.
You lost, the number of people, because Scout, my husband, was a big Little League coach in the area, and we have, obviously all of our kids grew up there, so all of their friends who lost their homes in the fire, and we get a lot of texts, hey, do you have any photos of the kids when they were together? I'm like, I'm sure I do. That is like the project that I open the closet door and start crying because I don't want to go through all those photos because
Oh, yeah.
Four generations of 2 families of photos.
Yeah. Well, you're going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. So I said, yes, I'm sure I have some, but it's going to take me months.
Or your scanner is going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, exactly. But all the artwork, all the first edition novels that might have gotten.
Yeah.
There were a lot of book collectors up in Pasadena. Oh my gosh. There were like 4 used bookstores in that Pasadena area.
Oh, so the used bookstores got...
Well, they didn't, but, you think about the clientele there. Most used bookstore aficionados either travel long distance or they're down the road, type people. Not just the commercial art, but like you said, the kids' artwork, or you have people. I mean, there was a lady around the block from us that was a painter, and she had this beautiful window with this beautiful tree, and she'd sit there in the evening. You'd see her painting in that beautiful living room of hers every night. That's all gone because the house is gone, And you just look at all of that kind of stuff, and all of the people who. It's a big gardening area. Also, so you look at all the people who plants. Most of the people we know, their yards didn't make it through. Ours did. Our neighbor across the street did too. The lady who owned the house, this is a family that moved to Northern California. They bought that house from a lady who had passed away, and she was 100 and something, 102 or something. She was the original owner of the house, and she had a huge rose garden, and all those roses made it through.
Oh, did they?
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
But you look and you say,
Yes, the memories. But that's things. But there's still memories, like I said, that you guys on Facebook, you talked about when you did the art. So there's your memories.
Yeah.
That will endear.
They will. That will endear. Yep. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's an experience. It's not one I would recommend going through. But it's an experience.
Well, Shannon, thank you for coming in today and talking about this.
Anytime.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the Mesquite Works STEAM Center in the scenic Mojave Desert, the Art Box sponsors thank you for listening. You can find us on Spotify, Samsung, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and Amazon Music. Please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We are on Facebook and Instagram as The Art Box. We welcome all comments. You can email us at artboxvv@gmail.com. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of its hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of our sponsors.